conclusion of the reading of the proclamation. Ladies and gentlemen, the proclamation. All persons having any business before this honourable court now draw nigh. Give your attendance and you shall be heard.
Crowd. Welcome to the ceremony to mark the appointment of Commissioner Howell as Commissioner of the Industrial Relations Commission of New South Wales. We are sitting here on the land of the Gadi people, the Gadigal of the Eora Nation. I acknowledge their elders, past and present, and extend that acknowledgement to all other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Can I be the first to formally welcome you, Commissioner Howell? And it's appropriate that it's occurring in this room because it was here 25 years ago as a young tipstaff that you fell in love. Twice. Once with the associate to my esteemed predecessor, President Justice Roger Boland, and second with industrial law and the particular form of industrial law that we practice here in the New South Wales Industrial Relations Commission. You are someone who is known to have an encyclopedic knowledge of the law of this jurisdiction. You have extensive litigation experience and a calm demeanour, all of which will serve you well. That's a first. All of which will serve you well in this new role that you have. I can say I'm looking forward to working with you for many years to come. I call on the Minister for Industrial Relations and Minister for Work Health and Safety, the Honourable Sophie Kotsis, to speak on behalf of the Government of New South Wales.
Thank you, Your Honour. May it please the Commission, I would like to begin with acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which this court stands, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I would also like to extend my respect to our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander colleagues present today. Thank you, Your Honour, for the invitation to address the Commission today. I am pleased to speak at this ceremonial sitting to welcome one of the most recent appointments to the Industrial Relations Commission of New South Wales, Commissioner Anthony Howell. I would like to welcome distinguished guests, including the Honourable Justice Hatcher, President of the Fair Work Commission, and the Honourable Justice Walton of the Supreme Court. I would like to acknowledge and welcome Commissioner Howell's family here today, his wife Monique, their children Chloe, Emily and Charles, and his parents Rosalind and Roger, who are here today to mark this fantastic occasion. I am also here with the Honourable James Gleeson, Thomas Costa, the Deputy at Unions New South Wales, and Adam Dancy, who speaks on behalf of the employers. The Industrial Relations Commission of New South Wales is a fundamental pillar of our industrial relations system. The Industrial Relations Commission plays a critical role in ensuring there is continued fairness in our workplaces and that services are delivered to the New South Wales community. It is also essential in helping parties in the public sector and local government work through industrial issues. Importantly, the appointment of Commissioner Howell comes at a time of very significant change in New South Wales. Since 2023, we have seen the repeal of a legislated wages cap, the restoration of the New South Wales Industrial Court, which has again been re-established as a superior court of record with equivalent status to the Supreme Court and Land and Environment Court, and a mutual gains bargaining stream. There also has been amendments and significant changes to Chapter 6 of the Industrial Relations Act, extending its coverage to take in platform and gig workers in transport. Importantly, the Commission's dispute settling powers have been extended to include the full range of supply chain participants. This ensures that Chapter 6 remains fit for purpose and addresses changes in the transport sector on how work is allocated and performed while protecting the most vulnerable. Last week saw major reforms passed by the New South Wales Government, which further expands the role of the Industrial Relations Commission. These reforms enshrine gender equity and the elimination of workplace bullying and sexual harassment as explicit objectives of the Industrial Relations Act. They establish new jurisdictions for the Industrial Relations Commission to deal with workplace bullying, sexual harassment, and disputes under the Work Health and Safety Act. I am confident that Commissioner Howell is well qualified to contribute in an incredibly positive way to the new industrial framework in New South Wales. Commissioner Howell comes to the Industrial Relations Commission with over 2 decades of experience as a barrister and legal practitioner in industrial relations and employment law. He commenced his diploma at law in the year 2000, with a New South Wales Legal Professional Admissions Board taught by the University of Sydney's Law Extension Committee. In fact, Commissioner Howell, while studying law, started his legal career in the chambers of various members of the Industrial Relations Commission of New South Wales. His first legal role was as a tipstaff and later as a relieving associate to the then Honourable Justice Leonie Glynn. He then worked as an associate and later research associate to the Honourable Justice Michael Walton, who is here today, the then Vice President. His final role in the Commission was as a research associate to the Honourable Justice Lance Wright QC, the then President of the Commission. Each of these roles involved assisting their honours in various ways in the day-to-day administration of their court. Commissioner Howell has also experienced first as a solicitor with Jones Staff & Co and was the solicitor with carriage of proceedings on behalf of Unions New South Wales, the Queensland Council of Trade Unions and various other union entities in the Work Choices case before the High Court. Commissioner Howell has appeared before the Commission, Supreme Court, Chief Industrial Magistrates Court, Local Court, Anti-Discrimination Board, the Administrative Decisions Tribunal New South Wales, Australian Industrial Relations Commission, Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission, and the Federal Court in various industrial matters. From 2013 to 2019, Commissioner Howell was a joint course convener and lecturer of a highly regarded University of New South Wales and University of Technology Sydney course titled Advocacy Before Industrial Tribunals that instructed advocates on the practice of advocacy before industrial tribunals, particularly the Industrial Relations Commission and the Fair Work Commission. Commissioner Howell was called to the New South Wales Bar in 2012 and commenced his practice at HB Higgins Chambers, where he specialised in industrial relations and employment law, discrimination law, administration law, commissions of inquiry, coronial matters and crime. As a barrister, Commissioner Howell has appeared as counsel in many matters before the Commission and the full bench of the Commission, the local, district and Supreme Courts of New South Wales, the Fair Work Commission including the full bench, the Federal Circuit Court, the Federal Court including the full court and as junior counsel before the High Court. This breadth of experience and practice areas will provide an excellent base and will no doubt be invaluable in dealing with matters that will appear before him in this Commission. I'm confident that Commissioner Howell and his fellow commissioners will carry out their duties with professionalism, impartiality and fairness. On behalf of the New South Wales Government, I warmly welcome the appointment of Commissioner Howell as Commissioner of the Industrial Relations Commission of New South Wales, if it pleases the Commission.
I call on Mr Glisson of Senior Counsel to speak on behalf of the New South Wales Bar Association.
May it please the Court. The appointment of Commissioner Howell, Tony, represents an almost inevitable and certainly natural progression in both his life and in the life and history of the Industrial Relations Commission of New South Wales. It is thus a pleasure and a privilege to represent the New South Wales Bar on this occasion, marking that appointment. To make that opening remark good, let me point out how important the Commission has been in your life before rehearsing some other aspects, Commissioner, of your very distinguished career in and out of law. The calm demeanour to which President Taylor has already referred has not been uniformly noticed. After a successful career as an exercise physiologist, you commenced the study of law in 1999 and obtained a position as tipstaff to Her Honour Justice Glynn, then senior member of the Industrial Relations Commission in court session at a time coinciding almost precisely with your commencing legal studies. There is necessarily in these speeches a degree of repetition, but I hope to make it at least somewhat interesting. To use your own words, Commissioner, it was through the prism of Her Honour's chambers that you had your first exposure to the field of industrial relations. As the President has already noted, two other things of major importance in your life occurred shortly thereafter. First, you were offered the opportunity to work in the chambers of the Honourable Michael Walton, then Vice President of the Commission, initially as an associate and then as a research assistant, and later in the chambers of the Honourable Lance Wright, KC, then President of the Commission, both of whom honour us and you with their presence here today. They too were H.B. Higgins men. In each of those positions, you came to see firsthand the work of the Commission in dealing with significant industrial disputes and were impressed by the way the Commission was able and remains able to bring together unions and employers to effectively and efficiently resolve significant workplace differences. From that early time, you saw the opportunity for a career that was to be interesting, intellectually stimulating, and enabled you to help people through some of their most challenging times. Again, in your own words, Commissioner, I was hooked almost immediately. The second major factor in your life was also enabled by the Industrial Relations Commission. In March 2000, you met your wife Monique at the Commission when she came to work as Justice Boland's associate, as has already been noted. By July 2001, I am reliably informed you were an item and have been together for 24 years. You have 3 children together, Chloe, now 18, Emily, 16, and Charles, who is 14. Typically of your commitment to commission, the tradition, I should say, your 3 children followed in your footsteps and attended Mossman High School, which you had left after the high school certificate for Southern Cross University. Charles, as you, Commissioner, is soon to be translated to Riverview. Attending university, you obtained a degree in applied science, paying your way through university doing security at local clubs and pubs around Lismore at a time when I was practicing there. Your exploits of physical prowess remain legendary, eclipsing even the floods. On graduation, you returned to Sydney, where you worked as a self-employed personal trainer, casual fitness instructor, and an exercise physiologist with the then New South Wales Academy of Sport at Narrabeen. You achieved success in bodybuilding with major awards, including the Junior Championship of the IFBB in 1992 and again in 1994. All the while you played rugby. I reliably informed that you are now the only member of the family who does not play football. Between 1996 and 1999, you ran a small health club in Mossman. The work was enjoyable and afforded the opportunity, which you have always enjoyed, of helping and supporting people through difficult personal challenges, but was poorly remunerated and frankly not intellectually rewarding. In search of that intellectual stimulus, you decided on a career in law, the beginnings of which I have already touched upon and about which more needs to be acknowledged. You found your IRC background led you to working for what was then a small trade union firm, Jones Staff, then as in-house counsel for 2 significant institutions, the Police Association and the RTBU, before being called to the bar, where you practiced from H.B. Higgins' chambers, reading with Mark Gibeon, now Vice Presidents of Fair Work, and Darian Nagel, specialising in the areas which the Minister already touched upon, and working as well with Adam Hatcher, now President of Fair Work, Tony Slevin, now Vice President of Fair Work, and so core of practice in the field in which you have always worked. You appeared, as has been noted, in many matters before the Industrial Relations Commission, the full bench of the Commission, the Federal Court and its full court, and before the High Court of Australia, notably in the seminal Work Choices decision in 2005. Pursuant to your commitment to frontline essential workers, after mid-2018, you combined your already busy practice with a new role as Assistant Secretary of the Police Association, providing significant legal assistance to its members and being active in lobbying for law reform connected to the work of police and to the field of industrial relations, in both areas of lobbying in which you were successful. As if those career paths were not enough, you also continued to follow the physical path where you began achieving great success, bodybuilding competitions, most recently including the NABBA International Southern Hemisphere Championship, first Classic Masters Bodybuilding, second Masters Bodybuilding, third Open Height Class. A remarkable achievement. Oh dear. As further evidence, as the Minister has already related, of your indefatigable energy, you also found time to be a contributing author to the New South Wales Industrial Law Service, course convener in the Advocacy Before Industrial Tribunals course for the University of New South Wales and UTS between 2013 and 2019, when the COVID pandemic brought about its termination. That was a course to instruct lay advocates in the practice of advocacy before industrial tribunals, particularly the Fair Work Commission and this commission which you now join. I trust your efforts as a teacher are to be rewarded as a consumer.
One can only hope.
I understand consideration is currently being given to recommencing that program, and you've been asked to again participate in its development and delivery. With your new duties, I doubt even you will find the time. Commissioner, the profession which you now leave behind wishes you well and expects great things from you in your new career. May it please the Court.
I call on Mr Costa, the Assistant Secretary of Unions New South Wales, to speak on behalf of the union movement.
If it please the Commission, I too would like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. President, members of the Industrial Relations Court and Commission, Minister, representatives of the legal profession and the bar, and family and friends of Commissioner Tony Howell. It gives me great pleasure to appear today on behalf of Unions New South Wales and to welcome you, Commissioner Howell, on your appointment to the Industrial Relations Commission. Congratulations and welcome. You have joined a unique institution that's purpose is to uphold a long-standing system of workplace and industrial relations. The New South Wales Industrial Relations Commission is the heart of the industrial relations system that at its best balances the unilateral power of management with the right of employees and their unions to utilise collective actions and to access an independent and impartial umpire when required. It's also an institution that has witnessed considerable change in its role and its relevance. And in previous speeches, I've spoken about how in my lifetime, there's already been a distinct shift of the Commission's employment in industrial jurisdiction from predominantly private sector employers and employees to now almost solely public sector and local government workplaces. And as part of this shift, unions and our members have relied on the Commission to conciliate and arbitrate or facilitate through negotiations disputes with predominantly workplaces governed by government departments. Today, I can add a further evolution in the Commission's role. Following recent amendments by the New South Wales Parliament to the Industrial Relations Act, the oversight of the Commission has shifted again. However, this time the amendments have seen the Commission's jurisdiction expanded. Significantly, the amendments have introduced new powers for the Commission to prevent or remedy workplace bullying and sexual harassment. These reforms, alongside an increase in the role for the Commission in resolving workplace health and safety disputes, are welcome and much needed addition in the role the Commission has in improving fairness in our workplaces. Unions New South Wales and our affiliated unions consulted on and ultimately supported the amendments to the Industrial Relations Act, in part because we respect the Commission as central to the industrial relations system, and that has always recognised that work and workplace relations are not just part of our economic story, but that work is part of our society and the story of our community as well. Importantly, in the context of the public sector and local government, it is imperative that the evolution of that story recognises that employees of government-controlled workplaces are committed servants of the public, never to be considered a mechanism for mere profit creation, but rather recognised for their fundamental role in the delivery of essential public services. The New South Wales industrial relations system at its core is a system designed to acknowledge that all workplaces should not just be productive, but they should be fair and safe. And our history has demonstrated the merit of having a third party who's able to intervene in the employment relationship in the interests of fairness, safety, and efficiency. This approach, when allowed to operate free from excessive political constraints, has been good for the economy, has contributed significantly to improving living standards for workers and their families, and it has ensured a degree of economic equity across our workplaces. Commissioner Howell, this is the first time that I have had the good fortune to welcome a new member to this commission who I've worked alongside and have known prior to their appointment. And I am certain that many of those in the room today will agree with me when I describe you as a passionate advocate, motivated by a strong sense of fairness and possessing a legal mind that thrives on detail and clarity. Commissioner, I spoke earlier of the recent reforms to the Industrial Relations Act, and you will recall that these reforms were the consequence of a long, arduous process of government consultation with stakeholders, including the business community, the legal fraternity, and unions. And Commissioner, I hope you won't mind me saying that your participation in those consultations was pivotal in achieving those important reforms I spoke of. Your ability to translate complex legal issues and articulate clear, simple solutions for reform assisted all parties in reaching sensible agreement on the changes. Commissioner, only those who've had the experience of representing working people truly understand the weight of responsibility that comes with advocating for an individual or a group of individuals in matters as deeply personal as their employment and their state of their wages and conditions. And I'd like to echo the words of Pat Gooley, the Secretary of the Police Association, and Kirsty Membrano, Assistant Secretary Industrial, when they wrote of your time with the association in their journal. Those fortunate enough to work with Tony or to be represented by him know that his energy and enthusiasm for a just outcome knows no end. Courtrooms can be lonely places for members, especially when they are the subject of the proceedings. He has represented and supported so many members through those difficult times. Commissioner Howell, the President already mentioned the beginning of your journey clerking for judges of the Industrial Relations Commission and the Industrial Court. And it was here that you built a foundation that would guide you through decades of dedicated work on behalf of workers, and with a rare professional specialty for understanding the idiosyncrasies of the state system better than most other union lawyers. How appropriate that after over 20 years working as an industrial officer, a lawyer and a barrister for a number of unions, and in particular your time at the Police Association, that you should now return to this commission, graduating as it may be from advocate to adjudicator. The commission is an old institution. It's existed in some shape or form for over 100 years. In the past, the tribunal was a venue where unions and our members not only sought the enforcement of industrial laws, but argued and achieved improvements in the conditions and nature of work. Above all, the Commission has been and still is an institution that workers, unions, and employers respect to air their grievances and to resolve their disputes in a way that upholds the law fairly and justly. Commissioner Howell, I believe that you will more than live up to the great history and responsibility endowed in this place. Unions New South Wales welcomes you. I welcome you as the latest member to be appointed to the Industrial Relations Commission, and I look forward to continuing to work with you in your new capacity as a Commissioner and appearing before you in this important and ancient institution. If the Commission pleases.
I call on Mr. Adam Danzy, who is twice qualified to speak, first as the Director of Workplace and Local Government New South Wales to speak on behalf of employers, and second as the cousin to Commissioner Howell.
Here we go. Here we go. Payback's a bitch.
Thank you. Thank you. If it please the Commission. In rising to speak, I join others in acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I also acknowledge the numerous guests in attendance, including Commissioner Howell's family, his mum Roslyn, father Roger, wife Monique, 3 children Chloe, Emily and Charles, brothers Benjamin and Hugh, and close friend Meredith. Today is the 8th occasion I've spoken at a ceremonial sitting of the Commission, and this one is the most special for me. As we've already heard, Commissioner Howell is my cousin. What the audience might not know is the role I played in introducing Commissioner Howell to industrial relations. In approximately 1999, when Tony was contemplating a career change and I was working as tip staff to Deputy President Sams, I became aware that Justice Glynn required a new tip staff. I provided Tony's details to Justice Glynn's associate Jackie, and before long, Tony had his first job in industrial relations, working at the Commission where he met his wife Monique. Commissioner Howell, your passion for industrial relations was present well before your first job in industrial relations. You'll recall the robust debate we had during the 1998 waterfront dispute over the merits of Patrick's attempting to replace its workforce with contractors who'd been trained in Dubai. As this is a special occasion, I will refrain from making remarks about how your views at the time may have been informed by what you'd heard Alan Jones say on Radio 2. Your subsequent mentors, which include the likes of Justice Glynn, Walton, Wright and staff, and Peter Remfrey from the Police Association, have no doubt changed your views about industrial relations. One of the challenges I faced with today's speech is that I have a longer list of things I've deemed too risky to mention. But for those that are wondering, perhaps come and speak to me at the after party. Some insights I trust you won't mind me sharing are, when we were children, our grandmother gave us the nicknames Harry the Handsome Hero and Vernon the Vile Villain. I was Harry, obviously. Your favourite movie as a child was Jaws, and it's therefore not surprising that when your mum took us to Balmoral Baths for one of your first swimming lessons, you refused to get into the water, demonstrating you have good logic and reasoning. You're also a descendant of Charles Brandon, 1st Duke of Suffolk and Henry VIII's best friend, who nearly killed the King of England in a jousting contest. This suggests that determination and risk-taking run in the family. And I might just indeed add on to that, some have suggested you've taken quite the risk today in letting me speak. I've taken the opportunity to ask some questions of your children. The first question I asked was, what do you like best about your dad? Chloe says she particularly loves how you raised your children to be different from most of her generation, who she says are soft, lazy and undisciplined in most cases, and instead your children follow in your footsteps of strength, independence and discipline. She also said you have a unique ability to explain without being condescending. You have an unwavering discipline that makes you the perfect role model and a standard to strive towards. You are cunning, you have a heightened intelligence and steadfast loyalty. And you have an endless compassion and capacity for empathy that led you to choosing and support the work of individuals struggling with employment and industrial relations, rather than joining a law firm which pays more and, quote, you chose the underdogs, the ones in need of a helping hand, and this is something she hopes to inherit and uphold for the rest of her life. For the employers in the room, don't worry, I'll arrange for her mother to have a quiet word to her later on. Emily says her favourite attribute would be your determination. When you set a goal for something, you make sure you do the best you can to achieve it, which is what led you to be so successful in bodybuilding. Charles says the thing he likes best about you is that you're disciplined and that you try and motivate him to do his best. Secondly, I asked, why do you think your dad will make a good commissioner? All your children said you are fair and make well-informed decisions, considering all sides of the story before making a final decision. You are infuriatingly always logical with your reasoning and decision-making. Thirdly, I asked, how would you describe your dad's style of discipline? Chloe described you as drill sergeant with a heart of gold, when needed, but always fair and caring underneath. In a single word, she described you as unwavering. Emily says you have high expectations and an emphasis on prompt responses. Charles says you are strict but fair. In short, do what you're asked, when you're asked, and the first time. Finally, I asked, what tactics do you use to get Dad to agree to something you want? Chloe says one must appeal to two things. It must be logical, and secondly, it must be the kind of thing Steve Rogers would endorse. Captain America, I'm assuming, and not the footballer. She also says there are bonus points if you include a deal sweetener in the form of a cheesecake, protein supplement, or Bunnings gift card. Emily says it's about proving you've earned what it is you're requesting. If she can prove she's done the work, you're more likely to agree. And Charles says he waits until you're in a good mood before asking. Very strategic. In summary, you are imposing both intellectually and physically. You have a deep sense of fairness and justice, and you have all of the attributes needed to make a great commissioner. All of your family are incredibly proud of what you've achieved. So on behalf of employers and your family, I congratulate you on your appointment. I wish you well, and I look forward to the valuable contribution you will make to the Commission and the people of New South Wales in the coming years. Give it, please.
Commissioner Howell.
Thank you. Picking on my kids, that was unfair. Can I start by joining the other speakers today in acknowledging the Gadi people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians, as I understand it, on the land which we meet and of the adjacent beautiful waters of the Sydney Harbour, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. To each of you, family, friends, my colleagues here in the Commission, various members of courts and tribunals and other distinguished guests, and for those watching online, can I thank you for giving up your Thursday morning to hear a collection of carefully selected and overly generous descriptions of my life and practice to date. A living eulogy, as Commissioner McRobert described it only a couple of days ago. But more seriously, your presence honours me and this Commission, so thank you. And welcome. To each of the speakers, Minister, Mr Glisson KC, Mr Costa and Adam. Thank you. Thank you for your generous words, but particularly to Mr Danzy, because, as you've heard, he's not only experienced and capable industrial lawyer and advocate in his own right, the Director of Workforce and Legal for Local Government New South Wales, and a thoroughly good bloke. He's also my cousin, I'm proud to say, which I mention because, as he's already sort of touched upon, it's very unnerving to know that someone with a wicked sense of humour knows all of your skeletons and is coming to speak on an occasion such as this. So thank you, Adam, for your generous words, but more importantly, for your discretion. Mr President, thank you for your kind words. My long-time friend and now colleague once again, Commissioner McRobert, made this observation only just a couple of days ago at her welcoming ceremony, but I want to thank you and each of the members of the Commission and the Court for making this transition so easy. You've been all extraordinarily welcoming and supportive, so I thank you all. The Industrial Commission as I'm sure many of you appreciate, is the practical and legal successor of the original Court of Arbitration established in 1902 and the Industrial Commission established in 1926. It's remarkable not only because of its longevity, but because, despite various additions, at its core, its central function remains that uniquely Australian system of compulsory conciliation and arbitration. In the foreword to the book, Laying the Foundations of Industrial Justice, commissioned by then President, the Honourable Lance Wright KC, to commemorate the centenary of the Commission back in 2002, His Honour described the Commission as an interesting and unique hybrid, at once a body and an institution, exemplifying both continuity and change. Continuity reflecting its sense of being part of the system administering the rule of law in New South Wales. Change as inevitable because of the institution's daily connection with work and enterprise, with the work and enterprise of the state's businesses, departments and people. Reference to the state businesses obviously reflects the time of its writing, pre-work choices, the referral of powers. But His Honour's observation of the Commission being a unique hybrid, exemplifying both continuity and change, remains as true today as it was more than 20 years ago when it was written. The Minister's already touched upon many of the changes that have been visited upon this place over the last 12 months. The establishment of the Industrial Court, the repeal of what came to be known as the wages cap, and in so doing largely recreating the late Jeff Shaw KC's vision of the Commission as providing a framework for the conduct of industrial relations that is fair and just. There's been changes relating to contracts of carriage and the ability to provide fairness for gig workers, and most recently, just last week, the passage of the Industrial Relations and Other Legislation Amendment Workplace Protections Bill. Now that bill will no doubt add a number of additions to our jurisdiction and will become on a point at due course, but when reflecting on continuity and change, there's one amendment, small in size, but in my humble opinion, significant in practical impact that warrants mention. It's a new provision empowering the Commission, at least when it commences, empowering the Commission in arbitration of an industrial dispute to, in essence, and I'm paraphrasing, make an order or determination provisionally in operation on an interim or final basis for the purposes of resolving the dispute. I haven't made a study of this, at least not yet, but I can't immediately think of an industrial court or tribunal anywhere, at any time, entrusted with such a broad power to determine an industrial dispute by way of compulsory arbitration in a manner that is fair and reasonable. It's a truly exciting time to join this Commission. I look forward to doing what little I can to contribute to its important work. For me, this appointment is special not only for its timing, but for a couple of other reasons. First, I don't come here alone. Sorry. My longtime friend and colleague, Alison, was sworn as a member of the Commission on the same day as me, in early June. Looking around the room, many of you were here at her swearing in, her welcoming ceremony just a couple of days ago, and heard firsthand all the reasons that, because of her background, knowledge and experience, particularly in the public sector, employment law, she is both an excellent appointment and a wonderful person. Making this transition with her has made it all the more special. And yes, Alison, if you ever need help opening a jar, I'm happy to help. Second, my appointment to this place feels a little like coming home. You've already heard my connection to this place started essentially the same time I started studying law, indeed almost precisely. My entire experience of the law has been, to a greater or lesser extent, through the prism of this place. It's strangely satisfying that where I began, I will also most likely finish. Mr. Danzy has already mentioned how I came to hold the position as a tipstaff to the Honourable Leonie Glynn way back when. But for that introduction, Adam, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So if you ever wind up appearing before me and come off second best, you should remember that it is ultimately your fault. But thank you. There are a great many people who've afforded me the opportunity, have afforded me opportunity, encouragement and support and guidance over the years. Many of whom I'm proud to say have become friends, some of whom I'm humbled to acknowledge are here today. It's not an exaggeration to say that I've had the privilege to observe, be mentored by and learn from some of the best industrial relations and employment law practitioners of our generation. Judges, counsel, solicitors, can't mention them all today, but it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge some who played a particularly important part in my story. First, there are a few who have the opportunity to work in the chambers of a judge. I had the privilege of working for three, two of whom had a particularly big impact on my story. You've already heard I came to work first for Justice Glenn as her tip staff, then the Honourable then Vice President, later President, and now Supreme Court Judge Justice Michael Walton, and the then President of the Commission, the Honourable Lance Wright KC. Both are men, in case you can't tell, I'm an emotional basket case. Both are men of extraordinary intellect. Both are generous with their time, and both are genuinely good blokes. Despite what you might think as you come from their court, having experienced a day getting kicked around. They took the time to discuss the matters in their docket, to discuss the issues that came up in a case, and of course the innumerable war stories that come from their collective decades of practice at the bar and life before it. All of which, as an enthusiastic young student, I soaked up like a sponge. It's through the prism of their honours' respective courts and the many discussions with them that I came to see how this area of the law could be a force for the betterment of the lives of ordinary working women and men. As His Honour the President has already noted, I fell in love with it. I was hooked almost immediately, and I set a long-term goal of maybe one day becoming a member of this bench. Good Lord.
It could be a fortuity.
Yeah, it could be one of those days. I told you, I tried to warn him that this would happen. Should have seen the farewell to the Police Association, it was worse. Next came Joan's staff. I left the chambers of the Honourable Lance Wright and had the good privilege to come and work for another member of that family, now Deputy President of the Fair Work Commission, Judith Wright, who at that stage headed up the industrial practice of a small trade union law firm that was at the time coming to grips with the loss of its senior industrial partner and frankly the firm's rainmaker, the Honourable Conrad Staff, who had just recently been appointed as a member of this court. The managing partner was Richard Brennan, who's here today. Richard and Judith took a chance employing me. At that time, that firm really needed someone with experience, which I didn't have. But luckily for me, they employed me anyway. Hopefully I was a reasonably quick study. Despite being already offensively busy. Deputy President Wright, with the help of Commissioner McRobert, somehow found time to guide and mentor, far out, a very enthusiastic but very green young lawyer. So to Richard, to DP Wright and to everyone I had the pleasure of working with at Joan's staff, thank you. I should also thank all of the other people I had the pleasure of working with when I was at the Industrial Court, many of whom have gone on to bigger and better things, including Deputy President Grayson and Mr. Nagel of Council, who are both here with me today. One of the best pieces of advice, if not the best piece of advice that Judith gave me was, if you need counsel, go to H.B. Higgins' chambers. She gave me 4 names in particular: Hatcher, Gibeon, Chin, Lowson, and if you need a silk, Crawshaw. So that's what I did. She was right, it was a very good decision. I spent about 10 years working as a solicitor in various capacities, Joan's staff, the Rail, Tram and Bus Union, the Police Association. I briefed that collection of barristers almost exclusively. They were, and frankly are, each of them brilliant legal minds. They were very generous with their time, and they were all lovely people. As a junior solicitor, I couldn't have asked for a better crew of counsel to work with. The support and guidance they provided me over the course of my career, particularly early on, has always been in the best traditions of the bar. Sage advice and counsel, always. Patience, most of the time. But perhaps most importantly, always forgiving of my innumerable mistakes. I say each were brilliant. That should frankly be obvious. Hatcher of counsel, Gibeon of counsel, and Chin of counsel all went on to become senior counsel and are now, of course, the president of the Fair Work Commission, the vice president of the Fair Work Commission, the vice president of this commission, and Ms Lowson of counsel continues to be one of the most experienced and capable members of the New South Wales Industrial Bar. I was extremely privileged to have worked with each of them over the years, and I can't thank them, each of them enough for their advice, their guidance, their support, and I humbly acknowledge their presence today. When I was called to the bar in 2012, it wasn't really a choice of where I would land. H.B. Higgins Chambers it was as a reader, and I never left. As you already heard, Vice President Gibeon and Mr Nagel of council were good enough to be my tutors. I did my criminal reading with Steve Russell of Trust Chambers. Mr Glisson of King's Council came to join us after Mr Crawshaw of council began to hang up the spurs, and came to join us a couple of years after I'd started. Chambers life was always fun. Each of you made it fantastic. It was a wonderful place to work. Particularly Mr Gibeon and Mr Nagel, you always had time whenever anyone needed it, and for your guidance and support, I will be forever grateful. Colleagues became friends, and they're friendships that I look forward to maintaining over my life. Finally, from a professional standpoint at least, I have to thank the magnificent the magnificent people of the Police Association. There are way too many of you to acknowledge today, so forgive me, you all know who you are. The association was my first client, and it was my last client. Over more than 20 years, as a panel solicitor, its first employed in-house counsel, retained barrister, and ultimately the union's assistant secretary for legal services. The association's current and past presidents, executive, and the current and former secretaries, both Pat Gawley and Peter Remfrey, both of whom I'm humbled to say are here today, trusted me to provide services to the union and its members. That was an extraordinary privilege. There's something particularly satisfying about helping to protect the industrial interests of the men and women of the New South Wales Police Force who, albeit a cliche, really do put themselves in harm's way each and every day in an effort to look out for each of us and our families. Anyone who's done their work, particularly in the coronial space, would appreciate that. So for that trust, for your camaraderie and for your friendships, I will be forever grateful. Thank you. Finally, to my family. Can I acknowledge the presence of my mother Rosalind and my father Roger, my brother Ben, my brother Hugh. Dad and Hugh have travelled up from Victoria to be with me today, and I'm grateful for you joining us and for the support that each of you, love and support each of you have provided me over the years. And kids, thank you for being very kind in what you said to Uncle Adam. It's very much appreciated. To one of my oldest friends, dating back to my sports science days, Meredith, the former Paralympian swimmer and world record holder, I might add. Thanks for braving the weather, travelling down from Port Macquarie to be with me today. Daniel, there he is, and his wife, Sabrina. Daniel's my next nephew, but really more like an extra son. The two of them are really an extension of our immediate family, so thank you for joining us. Welcome. Lastly, here we go again. Lastly, but absolutely not least, my wife and kids. Monique, the love of my life and my best friend. You've already heard we met here. When you came to work here as Justice Boland's associate upon his appointment back in March of 2000. You both came from the Australian Industry Group, and as fate would have it, happened to land working in a chambers on level 3 of 50 Phillip Street, where I also happened to be working for Justice Glenn at the time. We shared the chambers shared a kitchenette, and I think that's where we bumped into one another for the first time. If you ask, Monique will tell you that her first impression of me was that I was something of an arrogant little prick. She's not the first to say that, I mean. I won't tell you what I thought of her, but I eventually won her over. We used to come up with odd reasons for having to pop into one another's chambers over the course of the time that I was here. I should probably leave it at that. But you put up with me throughout that whole journey, including having been terribly kind when we went home after the first piece of real advocacy that I did, doing a plea on behalf of for defendant in a workplace prosecutions from a fatality. I mustn't have embarrassed myself too badly because you didn't run from the place screaming and you didn't rib me too much afterwards, so thank you for that. But without you, none of that, without the love and support that you've given me, none of that would have happened. So thanks. My 3 kids. Thanks. You know, this is going to be the only part of this that they talk about later. The fact that I can't hold together. Chloe, Emily, and Charlie. You guys are my reason for being. You are, each of you, intelligent, caring, strong, capable, gorgeous, lovely young people. You make me and your mum so proud each and every day. I'm here marking an important professional milestone, but you should know that each of you, growing into such wonderful young people, are really your mum and I's greatest achievement. So thanks for coming. Thank you to all of those who had a hand in organising today, especially your Honours Associate Rebecca, who has yet again outdone herself. I apologise for running over time. I apologise to each of you for my rather ridiculous emotional outbursts and for your patience. May it please the Commission.
Can I join Commissioner Howell in thanking everyone for attending and invite all of those who can stay to join us for morning tea in the room directly behind where we're sitting. Commissioners adjourned.
All stand.